Hello, Marion and Ali and Mary and A. Giggles. Welcome to all. This is Fireside Reading, and I'm so glad you're joining me. I'm Gildart Jackson, and as most of you know, every day I sit in front of the fire and I read a chapter or part of a chapter, or in some books, several chapters of old books to anyone who might like to join us. We've been doing this a long time. It's a island in the storm for many, and if you're new, welcome. Currently, we are in the middle of The Sun Also Rises, and if you want to catch up, you can do so on Instagram by finding the part of Instagram where I have all of these books. Actually, you can listen to any of the books we've done, or many of the books we've done there. Welcome to a fireside reading of The Sun Also Rises by Ernest Hemingway, Chapter 16, Part 2. Outside on the square, it had stopped raining and the moon was trying to get through the clouds. There was a wind blowing. The military band was playing and the crowd was massed on the far side of the square where the fireworks specialist and his son were trying to send up fire balloons. A balloon would start up jerkily on a great bias and be torn by the wind or blown against the houses of the square. Some fell into the crowd. The magnesium flared and the fireworks exploded and chased about in the crowd. There was no one dancing in the square. The gravel was too wet. Brett came out with Bill and joined us. We stood in the crowd and watched Don Manuel Urquijo, the fireworks king, standing on a little platform, carefully starting the balloons with sticks, standing above the heads of the crowd to launch the balloons off into the wind. The wind brought them all down, and Don Manuel Urquijo's face was sweaty in the light of his complicated fireworks that fell into the crowd and charged and chased, sputtering and cracking between the legs of the people. The people shouted at each new luminous paper bubble. The people shouted as each new luminous paper bubble careened, caught fire, and fell. "They're razzing Don Miguel," Bill said. "How do you know he's Don Miguel?" Brett said. "His name's Don Manuel." "How do you know he's Don Manuel?" Brett said. "His name's on the program. Don Manuel Urquijo, the Pyrotecnico of esta ciudad." "Globos Illuminados," Mike said. "A collection of globos illuminados. That's what the paper said." The wind blew the band music away. "I say, I wish one would go up," Brett said. "That Don Manuel chap is furious." "He's probably worked for weeks fixing them to go off, spelling out 'Hail to San Fermin,'" Bill said. "Globos Illuminados," Mike said. "A bunch of bloody globos illuminados." "Come on," said Brett. "We can't stand here." "Her ladyship wants a drink," Mike said. "How you know things," Brett said. Inside, the cafe was crowded and very noisy. No one noticed us come in. We couldn't find a table. There was a great noise going on. "Come on, let's get out of here," Bill said. Outside, the paseo was going in under the arcade. There were some English and Americans from Biarritz in sport clothes scattered at the tables. Some of the women stared at the people going by with lorgnons. We had acquired at some time a friend of Bill's from Biarritz. She was staying with another girl at the Grand Hotel. The other girl had a headache and had to go to bed. "Here's the pub," Mike said. It was the Bar Milano, a small, tough bar where you could get food and where you danced in the back room. We all sat down at a table and ordered a bottle of Fundador. The bar was not full. There was nothing going on. "This is a hell of a place," Bill said. "It's too early." "Let's take the bottle and come back later," Bill said. "I don't want to sit here on a night like this." "Let's go and look at the English," Mike said. "I love to look at the English." "They're awful," Bill said. "Where did they all come from?" "They come from Biarritz," Mike said. "They come to see the last day of the quaint little Spanish fiesta." "I'll fester them," Bill said. "You're an extraordinarily beautiful girl." Mike turned to Bill's friend. "Where did you come from?"
"Come off it, Michael."
"I say she is a lovely girl. Where have I been? Where have I been looking all this while? You're a lovely thing. Have we met? Come along with me and Bill. We're going to fester the English." "I'll fester them," Bill said. "What the hell are they doing at this fiesta?" "Come on," Mike said. "Just us three. We're going to fester the bloody English. I hope you're not English. I'm Scotch. I hate the English. I'm going to fester them. Come on, Bill." Through the window, we saw them all three, arm in arm, going toward the cafe. Rockets were going up in the square.
"I'm going to sit here,"
Brett said. "I'll stay with you," Cone said.
"Oh, don't," Brett said. "For God's sake, go off somewhere. Can't you see Jake and I want to talk?"
"I didn't," Cone said. "I thought I'd sit here because I felt a little tight."
"What a hell of a reason for sitting with anyone. If you're tight, go to bed. Go on to bed."
Was I rude enough to him? Brett said. Cone was gone.
My God, I'm so sick of him.
He doesn't add much to the gaiety.
He depresses me so.
He's behaved very badly.
Damned badly. He had a chance to behave so well.
He's probably waiting just outside the door now.
Yes, he would. You know, I do know how he feels. He can't believe I didn't mean anything.
I know.
Nobody else would behave as badly. Oh, I'm so sick of the whole thing. And Michael's been lovely, too.
It's been damned hard on Mike.
Yes, but he didn't need to be a swine.
Everybody behaves badly, I said. Give them the proper chance.
You wouldn't behave badly.
Brett looked at me. I'd be as big an ass as Cone, I said.
Darling, don't let's talk a lot of rot.
All right. Talk about anything you like.
Don't be difficult. You're the only person I've got, and I feel rather awful tonight.
You've got Mike.
Yes, Mike. Hasn't he been pretty?
Well, I said, it's been damned hard on Mike, having Cone around and seeing him with you.
Don't I know it, darling? Please don't make me feel any worse than I do.
Brett was nervous, as I had never seen her before. She kept looking away from me and looking ahead at the wall. Want to go for a walk?
Yes, come on.
I corked up the Fundador bottle and gave it to the bartender.
Let's have one more drink of that, Brett said. My nerves are rotten.
We each drank a glass of the smooth Amontillado brandy.
Come on,
Brett said. As we came out the door, I saw Cone walk out from under the arcade.
He was there,
Brett said. He can't be away from you.
Poor devil.
I'm not sorry for him. I hate him myself.
I hate him too, she shivered. I hate his damned suffering.
We walked arm in arm down the side street away from the crowd and the lights of the square. The street was dark and wet, and we walked along it to the fortifications at the edge of town. We passed wine shops with light coming out from their doors under the black, wet street and sudden bursts of music. Want to go in?
No.
We walked out across the wet grass and onto the stone wall of the fortifications. I spread a newspaper on the stone, and Brett sat down. Across the plain it was dark, and we could see the mountains. The wind was high up and took the clouds across the moon. Below us were the dark pits of the fortifications. Behind were the trees and the shadow of the cathedral and the town, silhouetted against the moon. Don't feel bad, I said.
I feel like hell, Brett said. Don't let's talk.
We looked out at the plain. The long lines of trees were dark in the moonlight. There were the lights of a car up the road, climbing the mountain. Up on the top of the mountain, we saw the lights of the fort. Below, to the left, was the river. It was high from the rain and black and smooth. Trees were dark along the banks. We sat and looked out. Brett stared straight ahead. Suddenly she shivered.
It's cold.
Want to walk back?
Through the park.
We climbed down. It was clouding over again. In the park it was dark under the trees.
Do you still love me, Jake?
Yes, I said.
Because I'm a goner,
Brett said. How?
I'm a goner. I'm mad about the Romero boy. I'm in love with him, I think.
I wouldn't be if I were you.
I can't help it. I'm a goner. It's tearing me all up inside.
Don't do it.
I can't help it. I've never been able to help anything.
You ought to stop it.
How can I stop it? I can't stop things. Feel that?
Her hand was trembling.
I'm like that all through.
You oughtn't to do it.
I can't help it. I'm a goner now, anyway. Don't you see the difference?
No.
I've got to do something. I've got to do something I really want to do. I've got to do something I really want to do. I've lost my self-respect.
You don't have to do that.
Oh, darling, don't be difficult. What do you think it's meant to have that damned Jewish man about, and Mike the way he's acted?
Sure.
I can't just stay tight all the time.
No.
Oh, darling, please stay by me. Please stay by me and see me through this.
Sure.
I don't say it's right. It is right, though, for me. God knows I've never felt such a bitch.
What do you want me to do?
Come on, Brett said. Let's go and find him.
Together we walked down the gravel path in the park in the dark, under the trees, and then out from under the trees and past the gate into the street that led into town. Pedro Romero was in the cafe. He was at a table with other bullfighters and bullfight critics. They were smoking cigars. When we came in, they looked up. Romero smiled and bowed. We sat down at a table halfway down the room.
Ask him to come over and have a drink?
Not yet. He'll come over.
I can't look at him.
He's nice to look at, I said.
I've always done just what I wanted.
I know.
I do feel such a bitch.
Well, I said.
My God, said Brett, the things a woman goes through.
Yes?
Oh, I do feel such a bitch.
I looked across at the table. Pedro Romero smiled. He said something to the other people at his table and stood up. He came over to our table. I stood up and we shook hands. Won't you have a drink?
You must have a drink with me, he said. He seated himself,
asking Brett's permission without saying anything. He had very nice manners. But he kept on smoking his cigar. It went well with his face. You like cigars? I asked.
Oh, yes, I always smoke cigars. It was part of his system of authority. It made him seem older. I noticed his skin. It was clear and smooth and very brown. There was a triangular scar on his cheekbone. I saw he was watching Brett. He felt there was something between them. He must have felt it when Brett gave him her hand. He was being very careful. I think he was sure, but he did not want to make any mistake. You fight tomorrow? I said. Yes, he said. Abgabeno was hurt today in Madrid. Did you hear? No, I said. Badly? He shook his head. Nothing. Here. He showed his hand. Brett reached out and spread the fingers apart. Oh, he said in English. You tell fortunes? Sometimes. Do you mind? No, I like it. He spread his hand flat on the table. Tell me I live for always and be a millionaire. He was still very polite, but he was surer of himself. Look, he said, do you see any bulls in my hand? He laughed. His hand was very fine and the wrist was small. There are thousands of bulls, Brett said. She was not at all nervous now. She looked lovely. Good, Romero laughed. At 1,000 euros apiece, he said to me in Spanish. Tell me some more. It's a good hand, Brett said. I think he'll live a long time. Say it to me, not to your friend. I said you'd live a long time. I know it, Romero said. I'm never going to die. I tapped with my foretips on the table. Romero saw it. He shook his head. No, don't do that. The bulls are my best friends. I translated to Brett. You kill your friends? She asked. Always, he said in English, and laughed. So they don't kill me. He looked at her across the table. You know English well. Yes, he said, pretty well, sometimes. But I must not let anybody know. It would be very bad, a torero who speaks English. Why? Asked Brett. It would be bad. The people would not like it. Not yet. Why not? They would not like it. Bullfighters are not like that. What are bullfighters like? He laughed and tipped his hat down over his eyes and changed the angle of his cigar and the expression on his face. Like at the table, he said. I glanced over. He had mimicked exactly the expression of Nacional. He smiled, his face natural again. No, I must forget English. Don't forget it yet, Brett said. No? No. All right. He laughed again. I would like a hat like that, Brett said. Good. I'll get you one. Right. See that you do. I will. I'll get you one tonight. I stood up. Romero rose too. Sit down, I said. I must go and find our friends and bring them here. He looked at me. It was a final look to ask if it were understood. It was understood, all right. Sit down, Brett said to him. You must teach me Spanish. He sat down and looked at her across the table. I went out. The hard-eyed people at the bullfighter table watched me go. It was not pleasant. When I came back and looked in the cafe 20 minutes later, Brett and Pedro Romero were gone.
The coffee glasses and our 3 empty cognac glasses were on the table. A waiter came with a cloth and picked up the glasses and mopped off the table. We will find out what happens tomorrow. I will be reading at 5 Pacific at Fireside Reading on Instagram, and I can't wait to see you there. But until then, I do hope you all stay very, very well indeed. Bye-bye.